So apparently some people don't get that EDM has subgenres or that it's more complex than it actually is. So today I'm going to go down a list and describe a couple of genres of EDM and explain what they are and how they differ from one another. I don't claim to be an expert in this field. I'm just an EDM nerd. That's like my favorite genre of music. And I just want to explain some basic principles of some genres so people can stop saying that what I listen to is dubstep when that's not it. Regardless, I want to help you, and hopefully you can stop pissing off your friends who also listen to EDM with the same problems that I have. So, starting off with now house is a very broad genre, very basic, and sort of the foundation for the other genres that I'm going to be covering today. Created in the city of Chicago with a 4 on the floor beat. So it will be like boom, 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 boom. That's like layman's term for how it sounds, but you'll hear it in a moment. Now, it doesn't mean that all house beats are the same tempo. House does normally have a higher tempo, around 120 to 130 beats per minute, or shortened to BPM. So this all began in Chicago when DJs would start altering disco tracks to have them have deeper bass lines and help them sound more electronic in nature. So that's how house was originally born, in a very short way, a sentence version. House also has a symphonic sweep and help from synthesizers. Some examples of this sort of sound will include
began to dance slowly, dance and shuffle around a bit, dance,
Now take the premise of house music and add a bit more of a mechanical feel to it. That's kind of what tech house is about. Now, it can sound similar to house music, but it does have enough distinction to classify it as something else. And here are some examples of that. Now this one gets funky as shit. You ever wondered what acid sounds like? You know what it tastes like, you know what it does to you, but do you ever know what it sounds like? Well, it sounds trippy, very trippy, and like beakers. It has psychedelic bass lines and wacky synths that make you feel like you're on acid. You know, because it's acid house. It also goes well with ecstasy. Haven't tried it, that's only what I've heard. time, house music has been a humongous and international success, and it's made its way overseas to Europe. French house is special in that in the other subgenres that I've talked about, I have yet to mention anything about sampling. And sampling is a big part of French house. It doesn't mean that it's in every French house song, but it is a major component to French house tracks. French use samples in many creative ways. Some will have one sample that's just looped over and over and over and over. House as a genre by itself is already repetitive, but French house will have a loop of a sample that will get inside your head in total earworm. Sometimes there's one sample that's completely chopped up into pieces that is beyond recognition and no one can pinpoint what it is. And sometimes there's just songs that have numerous samples inside of them. Numerous samples that haven't been messed with or have been messed with. I've heard a song that has a reversed Dan Hartman sample in it. So the sky's the limit with what French house can do, or with what the French can do to put in their tracks. And in that aspect, it's kind of why I find French house to be so cool in my opinion. It doesn't help that my favorite electronic duo is Daft Punk, so a duo that began in France. And here's a non-Daft Punk example of French house. So here's another subgenre that relies on ecstasy, okay? Trance moves at a faster pace than house music would normally go to. Normally around 125 to 150 BPM. It also has higher pitches, has higher pitch synths and melodies that I'll show you in a moment. Rumor has it that trance goes so fast because you would do ecstasy and your heart would beat faster when you're on the magical drug. So they would make music that would go along with that, and it would make you dance. It would make you dance as fast as the song, which is why when you don't have ecstasy or a drug or a stimulant in your body in general, trance music can be kind of hard to follow. So here's what that sounds like. Is different in that there's a break in the beat. It's pretty much the easiest way that I can explain it. Whereas house beats will be like break beats more like So ignore my pretty bad beatboxing. That's what it will normally sound like, and you'll hear that in the examples that I will provide for you. In another way, breakbeat sounds like someone's actually like behind all the synths and melodies playing the drums, whereas house music it's a very steady pace, so it sounds more like a drum machine, which is what they used. They use drum machines for all these kinds of genres.
Get busy now.
Okay, now dubstep is something that most people picture when you mention EDM or you play a song that's slightly electronic in nature, like at all. Dubstep, it has a extremely intense energy to it, and it can kind of be overwhelming. It's a very overwhelming sound, it's like screaming and scratchy sound. It's very powerful. Dubstep is actually the origin of the stereotypical wub sounds, like the wub sounds that we often criticize it for, or that we love it for. Depends on who you are. Dubstep has the potential to be very chaotic, and it makes it too much for me personally. However, I understand that it does have its following. Skrillex popularized this genre with his Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites EP. And that's sort of why people associate dubstep with him. And for good reason. Because Skrillex is the definitive dubstep sound.
Boy bass, mash up the place.
Here's a non-Skrillex example of dubstep. Now, techno to me is more laid back than anything else on this list. However, I understand that it's really not. It's just it's a different sound, and because of that different sound, it sounds more laid back. But it definitely is not. Now, it still has the potential to make you all move in your chairs. You can classify techno by the amount of beep boop sounds it has in the track, like you're jingling your keys in auto-tune. That's not a definitive way to tell, but it is a way to help you classify it as a genre. In addition, it is a way more futuristic sounding genre than anything else on this list. So here are a couple of examples of that. this kind of gets confused with hardcore, and that's because it's not really meant to be confusing. It's because they pretty much are essentially the same thing. But hard techno is in the same realm as techno. There's still like beep boop sounds, and there's still futuristic sounding. However, the intensity is pumped up to 11 on these sort of tracks, and you'll see in a minute what I mean by that. This type of genre is not exactly for the average listener. It's more specifically for people that like it, that like the loud abrasiveness, because that's what hard techno is. It's very loud and extremely abrasive. So people would just probably call it like this is just noise at this point. Why are you playing this? But trust me, it does have a following, and people like that kind of sound. Me being one of those people. It's high energy, and sometimes there are tracks that just scream at you. So that's why hardcore and hard techno are pretty much the same name. So. Okay, so what did we learn today? Well, why did I make this video? Let's start with that first. It was not to flex my playlist, because this is all on my playlist, I swear. But for fun educational purposes, to teach people what EDM is, or well, maybe not what it is, but some subgenres of EDM, so people will stop confusing it for things that it's not. EDM is more of an umbrella term more than a genre in it of itself, though. So hopefully you guys learn to stop calling house dubstep. I swear to fucking God, it is not, and I'm tired of hearing it.